Welcome, everyone. It is Tuesday night, 7 p.m., Outlawed Live with me, Ron Stone, and Mike Idle. Mike, how's it going? You rest up?
Yeah, we're golden, but where are you? You're just a black box right now. We can't see you.
What? You can't see me?
No, you are a black square. You are an empty
I can
black
see
square
me.
at the moment.
Can everyone else out there see me? I can see me on the screen.
On my side. Maybe it's something on my side. I don't know. I might just be getting the voice of Ron Stone only. And
All right, let's ask people out there watching. Can you see me on the screen? I can see me on the screen right now. Are you sure, Mike?
That's what I'm. From my side, you are just an empty black box, my friend.
Can you see
yourself?
If
they can see you. Nope. Now we.
How about that?
Nope. Just. So.
Can anyone see me out there?
BJ Minnow says, can't see
What is going on here?
Mark Willis, no Ron. What are we going to do?
Let me see here. Did I give permissions for... I don't know what's going on. What's going on here? StreamYard keeps playing around with this stuff. Let's see.
Hold tight, folks. We're going to get this sorted out. We know you want to see the man.
What is going on? All right. It's funny because I can see myself back on the screen here. I don't know what's going on, Mike.
We might be an audio show. You'll have to rely on my. You always say, Ron, that I'm the more animated of the two of us anyway. So I'll just have to bring all the facial expressions for two tonight.
Yeah, this is interesting. Very interesting. Never had this come up.
Chris Kilbarger wants to know if your lens cap is on.
No, there's no lens cap on my computer camera. No. Mirror my camera.
Mine's got like a little shutter deal up here, so I could start closing mine. But
well, I wonder if I go back to my old camera here on the laptop, if that would do anything. Let's see here. It's not even recognizing my old camera. I am invisible.
Yep, you are but we got audio, so we can roll with that. We can work with that. We can share screens, so we can hear you.
Well, let's try this. How about this? Can you see me now?
No dice, my friend. No dice.
This is peculiar.
That's a good word for it.
Yeah, definitely.
Add that one to the list of adjectives. That's a good one.
I'm gonna make sure I gave all permissions here. All permissions. It's all there. Very weird. Very weird. All right. Well, you can hear me. I'll keep playing with it throughout the podcast here.
Yeah, we can hear you. More. That's the main thing.
I can do whatever I want visually here. Nobody would see anything.
If you hear a fizzy sounding aluminum cracking noise, that's just a Pepsi. We promise.
Yeah, I would never drink directly from the can while we're on air. I mean, come on now. Hello, everybody, for watching. Tina and Eric Berger watching from Wilbur, Nebraska. Case Conover from Lytle, Texas. PJ Minio says you guys are awesome. Chris Kilbarger, no, the lens cap is not on. Cameron Woida from Norfolk. Chris Kilbarger. Alan Wickline. Cole Lundahl from Wakefield, Nebraska. Mark Willis. Let's see. That's everybody watching so far. So it was a busy week. Trying to get rested up. Of course, this week we have one event, Mike. When was the last time we just had one event, one night on a weekend?
Not even like, I've got one show, you've got one show, like just one, the whole gamut of the outlaw. It is, I'm going to steal your word, peculiar. It's interesting. We have been on such a whirlwind since about the third week of July, where it's been upwards of 7 shows a week. And this last one, where we had 5 shows in 5 days. And interesting that we're going to go straight just into one. Looks like we might have lost Ron totally there for a second, but that's fine. So we'll just piggyback off that. Yeah, so they're going to be headed up to Madison, South Dakota for the pull up there at the Prairie Village that they have going down. And Ron's without his camera. I'm without my cell phone, which I always talk about the Outlaw pulling app that you want to download and check that out, which is usually what I go to for all things. There he is, Ron.
Oh, I'm back now. All right, good. Can you hear me too?
Yeah, we're golden, man. We're golden.
I basically just turned it off and turned it back on. Imagine that.
That's like that's the number one thing that our technician says. He goes, you turn it off, turn it back on, put some new batteries in it. But no, you went away there for a second and you were talking about just one event. We're going up to Madison, South Dakota. And yeah, how's that feeling? And how's your voice after everything? And where are we kind of mentally in the season right now, my friend? You know, we're on the downhill slide.
You know, let's take a look at the old schedule here.
Yeah.
And I know we looked at last time, I think I was on the show here. We were just at the bottom of this left side. Let's see. As much as I like seeing that we're awesome, I'm going to pull that off of there. Yeah, last time I was on the show, we had just gotten past what would have been Platte City, which was canceled. And then you went up to Scribner, and I did Mercer, and then Gibbon and Mobile and McLouth and Mound City and Weeping Water, West Point, Washington, DeLeon, Palmer, Iowa State Fair, Wisner. Look where we're at now. Just a short period of time. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weekends of pulling between now and the end of October. Total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 events, Mike.
Out of our 53 sessions that we run on the year, 43 total events. So definitely getting down to the nitty gritty. You know, we're getting a really good idea of what the tight races are going to be. We're getting a good idea of, you know, who's going to kind of run away with some. We've already got a couple points champions. If I remember correctly, our diesel super stocks are done. Our 3,200 super fields are done. So yeah, we're kind of getting there. It's a bittersweet feeling. You know, it was weird driving home from Wisner. You know, that was I started back up school today. No more microphones for me on the year. And you catch your breath, but you're sad at the same moment, you know. And I think that's kind of where we're headed right here with going into our final couple of weekends coming down. But, you know, like we always tell the fans at a big pull, stick around, a lot of horsepower left. This thing is far from decided just yet.
Yeah, another class that will be over here coming up this weekend, the naturally aspirated two-wheel drives, the modified two-wheel drives. Their last hook will be in, not this weekend, but next weekend, I should say, Mike.
And here
they hook this weekend in Madison, and then again next weekend on that long Labor Day weekend. That'll be the last hook at the South Dakota State Fair for the NA, the modified two-wheel drives. Yeah, and then let's see what other one is close here. Light modifieds, light limited modified, same thing. They'll end the year at the South Dakota State Fair on Monday, September the 1st, I think it is.
Yeah, that's a Monday.
Long weekend. Let's talk about some things here. Let me pull this out of here, and you know the Holganix Midwest Sweep schedule. Let's talk about that a little bit as we scroll on down here. And the only class coming up in Madison, we had a whole mess of them in Wisner and the Iowa State Fair. Madison, the 540 Light Pros will be pulling. You can see 4 of those classes are done now. They're in the books, and we do have those results to disclose here tonight. Of course, there's the September 1 at the State Fair in South Dakota. This weekend, of course, is Madison or Prairie Village, South Dakota. That show starts at 6 on Saturday. But I just wanted to update everyone on these Holganix Midwest Sweep, Summer Sweep points. This class, the last hook for them was the Iowa State Fair. These are final points tallies here. Jeremy Paulson going to win that sweep by 2 points with the Hawkeye hooker. The under construction John Deere in the number 2 spot there. Only 2 points behind him. Crazy Horse. Go ahead. Go ahead, Mike.
I don't know. I don't know which of those two top tractors, Ron, if we look back at the seasons that Ryan and Jeremy had, which are really polar opposite styles of seasons, and I don't know which of those I'm more impressed with. Ryan Boyson, who is just always there, always consistent, never breaks, and just, quietly does it without, blowing the stones away or anything. And he's right there. He's 2 points away, almost finishes in a championship with the Holganix points. Or Jeremy Paulson, who just went on one of the biggest tears I've ever seen and won 7 straight consecutive pulls. Both of those guys, I'm just really, really impressed with the style of season that they had, especially Paulson, coming back from some of the things that he came back from. So both of those good stories. I'm really happy for both those guys to finish as close as they did to the number 1 spot.
Yeah, and of course, the one tractor here that you don't see that is absent is the barn burner.
Yeah.
A couple of misses for him at crucial times during the sweep dropped him down to 6th in those point standings there. So that's where your sweep points will differ from your season-long Case IH Thunder in the Dirt points, because the sweep only covers usually 10 events. If it's a weekend event like, say, Wisner, we get 2 hooks. We average those points. So sometimes it's more than 10 hooks, but there's 10 points values that are input into the tally. So, yeah, sometimes it's going to look a little bit different than what the National Series points do.
Ron, I'm going to throw a comment up here because I think this is a good one worth calling attention to. Talking about number 3 at the Crazy Horse. So Marty Samuelson said, is that Rod Pasota's Crazy Horse? Yes and no. That was Rod's tractor that he sold to Kurt Paulson, 2 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago. And
yeah, I can't remember if it was last. I know he drove it last year. I think maybe last year was the first year for him.
I want to say last year was his first year out with it as well, but Kurt's done a phenomenal job with it. I mean, he really took his time building it, building his understanding of how to run it last year, and then capitalizing on all that information this year. Kurt's that thing's a bullet. Kurt's done a nice job.
So that series for that class was over when they hooked at the Iowa State Fair. Then we go to Light Limited Pro, which finished up in Wisner. Mitch Larson, young buck, wins the sweep there. Inches Matter, Mike Masonbrink. Randall Gira, the underrated 2. Brady Gosler's Spare Time. Mike Hargan's Wild Side in 5th there. And I was going to put up there how much they actually win in the sweep. First place I know gets $3,250. 5th place gets $750. I was going to put that up here on the screen and I forgot to make that graphic, but I know what first is and I remember what 5th is.
Mm-hmm. The rest are in the middle somewhere.
Pro Stock 4x4, bipolar. Keith Hammond's going to win that. The Chain Stretcher, Toby Vanderpool's 2nd. The Tater Wagon in 3rd. Noise Complaint 4th. Show Me Chevy 5th. That's your Pro Stock 4x4 sweep final in Wisner. Then Super Farm. Now, I announced this the other night, and I was wrong because I was looking at the spreadsheet. The spreadsheet did not include the Iowa State Fair. And even there was another one I think it didn't include. So I was wrong in saying that Someday won that by 0.5 point. These are the final points here. The Dakota Deer winning those points. Endangered Species. They crept up there. Made a run for that.
I could see the endangered species, in all truthfulness and all seriousness, within the next 2 to 3 years, winning a national points title, and maybe even making its way to Louisville. That tractor has really just came on and been a major player, no doubt about it. So that's one I'm not surprised to see it there. I am, but I'm not. That one you just cannot take lightly. That thing's going to be tough in the next couple of seasons.
Yeah, so last year's points champ, Chad Weisenkamp, Someday 3rd, Jared Johansson 4th with Blaze of Glory, and Chad Andrews, Bruley Buck. So congratulations to Alan Andrews and Dakota Deer, and the Andrews family for putting 2 tractors there in the top 5 in Holganix Midwest Summer Sweep points. So no No other class will end this weekend. Only the 540 Light Pros will be in Madison. So all the other points races will still keep rolling on. I don't think we have any more that are final until Unionville. Go back and look at that schedule again one more time.
I was kind of wanting to oh, you're talking Holganix?
Yes, Holganix
only. Because we've got the light limited mods off the top of my head. Do they finish their national standings points in Huron?
Huron, yes.
That's what I was thinking. But then we'll get back on track with our Holganix and we'll wrap some up in Unionville. Who wraps up in Unionville?
Looks like 10,000-pound pro stock wraps up in Unionville. Two-wheel drive, Supermod two-wheel drive will wrap up in Unionville. Light super stocks will wrap up the following night in Buckner, Missouri. Mod tractors in Unionville and limited pro stock in Unionville.
So you'll have the calculator smoking up there in the announcer's booth again on that night. That'll be a busy one up there. Yeah,
that'll be a busy one as well. So, so there you're up to date on those. Now, if we go to the National Series, let's look at the National Series here. Light Super Ag, Hawkeye Hooker in the lead right now. He, like you said, he's come on strong. He's learned and figured that new tractor out pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And he's got a pretty strong lead there. Kurt Paulson's not going to go away anytime soon. And neither is Corey Schluter in the barn burner. Now, one thing I want to mention on these classes is the app is now figuring in the drops. Okay, so when you see sometimes after a weekend pulling or a weekend like we just had where we had every class hooked at least 3 times for the most part with the Iowa State Fair and Wisner, you might see some big changes because the computer is automatically dropping those low hook numbers depending on how many hooks they have. They may have 1 drop, they may have 2 drops, and the computer is automatically dropping those now. So whereas last year at this point, we were having to do it in our head, which made it a little confusing. So now the computer's doing it. We don't have to do that, and these are your actual.
And here's what's really interesting about this, Ron. Here's what's really kind of funny. So keep in mind, for everyone who doesn't know, the drop system, they take away your 2 lowest point values at all points in time, at any point in time. If you go into a weekend like Wisner, great example. Let's take someone like a Cameron Neves from this weekend. Tried the right-hand line there on Friday night. Nothing doing up there. He finishes way back in the pack. You're sitting there thinking, oh, doggone it. You know, those turbines, they went out there, they laid one out. I finished way down. I'm only going to grab 18 points. They're going to grab 28 points. I'm going way backwards. Well, what's funny is you'll take that 18 or that 12 or whatever that he got that night, automatically drops out because that becomes his worst. But then they go in your bubble. Whatever your worst before that was goes back in because that's no longer your worst. So Cameron, I was talking to him Saturday morning, excellent example, and he kind of thought, oh, you know, the turbines have got me now after that bad finish last night. But what he didn't realize is whereas that 18 or 12 or whatever, that went out because that was his bottom, and that pushed back in.
Yeah.
So he actually gains points in a weird sort of, I mean, he doesn't, but he does with the way it looks on paper. So, pay close attention because with this automatic, after a weekend, you're going to see some movers and groovers, you know.
I just want to keep let's get to the comments here, Mike. We don't get too far behind. Wisner was a great show, maybe the best pool I've been to in many years. The track officials were spot on. Thanks, Alan. Alan Wickline. Thanks for checking in. It was a great show. It was a great show. Everything was moving fast on the track. 405 hooks over 3 days there at Thunder by the River. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Marty Samuelson looked like a great weekend of play. It was, Marty. It was awesome. Robert Miner checking in from Niobrara, Nebraska, one of our our usual fans that watch. Oh, he said the announcers were great also, Mike. So thanks, Alan. Appreciate it.
We appreciate the feedback. That does mean a lot. You know, this is something Ron and I are obviously incredibly passionate about, and we do our best to represent the pullers and entertain you fans. So thanks for the positive feedback.
And Marty, I did sing on Saturday. The lady that was supposed to sing Saturday night did not show up. It was about a minute before. And I said, I'll do it. I felt good, felt like I could do it. So I did it. Go to the doctor for those asking out there. I do have a doctor's appointment tomorrow. to scope my vocal cords one more time. Hopefully everything is healed, and I'll let everybody know what's going on there. But hopefully I'm all healed up. It doesn't hurt like it did, say a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. So I'm hoping I'm on the mend here. So Shannon Coleman, 2-wheel drive puller from New Mexico that pulled, had a pretty wild ride on Saturday.
Used up, had 45 width the left and right. And he said, I didn't come from New Mexico just to play with one lane. I want that whole track out here. So you got your money's worth,
Yeah, took a bit of a wild ride there. Ed Sass says, hello, boys. Robert Miner checking in. Yes, it was a fast day. Chris Pierce checking in. Let's see. Cole, it was interesting to watch Shimano Pro Stock 4x4 Mod 4 that rode the chalk line right against the guardrail on Saturday. It was a lot of that. They were taking extreme edges of the track.
Both sides of the track. Broadway was something that they didn't have any interest in. It was the top or bottom side on both lines. Most of the nights we saw the red sled and the orange sled were this close to each other because they wanted the left on the right track and the right on the left track. So,
let's see. How was the chicken race? Well, I heard somebody broke their collarbone out there or something on Saturday night. It wasn't really a chicken race. It was all kind of different characters racing out there. So, Zuck Fukerberg says, good evening, gents. Thank you, Shannon. Robert Miner. Fireball helps. Yeah, I don't know if that does for an inflamed vocal cord. I don't know if anything called with the name fire in its title would help an inflamed vocal cord. But Marty Samuelson with a good question. Do points change with the amount of track?
Let's talk about this.
How that works, Marty, is if somebody shows up that is not a member of Outlaws, they pay a one-day membership fee, but they don't get points. You jump over them. Let's say the points value system of the Outlaws, if you win, you get a bonus point. So a winner gets 28, second place gets 26, then 25, 24, 23, 22, till it gets down to 10, and everybody at that point gets 10. Let's say, let's take, for example, Jack Kielmeyer, let's say. Didn't he win the two-wheel drive class on Thursday night, Mike? You recall? I think he did.
Well, or like another one, you could take a Cody Lewis comes to mind. A Gage Lewis goes out and wins the class in the four-wheel drives on Friday night, and then Cody gets second on Saturday. But yeah, Jack won Thursday night.
The winner wouldn't get any points. Second place would get, if it's a member, would get 27. They don't get a bonus point because they didn't win, but they get 27. Then second gets 26, 25, 24, 23. And then let's say somebody finished second or third. We just jump over them.
Yeah.
To get that point value. So if you're not a member, you can't take points away from a member.
Yeah. If an outlaw gets first, and then a non-outlaw gets second, a non-outlaw gets third, a non-outlaw gets fourth, and a non-outlaw gets fifth. That fifth place finisher, but he is an outlaw, he gets the second place points because he finished second of the outlaw trucks. So they can't play spoiler. That's an excellent question. I've wondered that for a long time with all associations. But no, they can't come in on a one-day time and ruin a season's worth of work. I don't want to use the word ruin, but they can't upset, that. So no, you can't play spoiler.
Chris Pierce was in the pits this weekend, didn't run in. Well, Chris, I tell you what, we wear a lot of hats at a pool, especially a large pool like Thunder by the River. All those flags alongside the track, all the track markers, all the banners, all the inflatables, the tents and all that stuff. We set all that stuff up and tear all that stuff down. We're back doing our research sometimes in the RVs, getting the points and all that stuff, taking notes, getting things like that. We do walk the pits when we have time to try to get the backstories. Find out,
here's you will always find
somebody broke a rear end, what have you.
Here's what I concluded this weekend, Ron, and I feel like tell me if this isn't a pretty spot on assessment. And I appreciate what you're saying, because we do put a lot of times in the research and the notes and stuff. There's a pretty good chance you'll find both of us in the pits at 11 o'clock. Mine's on the AM, Ron's will be on the PM. So if honestly, I like to get out and move and groove. a little before lunchtime, and I didn't go out after and do any follow-up interviews. And that's important. But I know, Ron, I think you were out there boots on the ground afterwards talking to people about how was your run and whatnot. And then I was kind of there. So 11 o'clock, it's a good time to find us. AM for me, PM for him.
Well, at 11 p.m., when they've had a couple of barley pops, they're a little more forthcoming about the stories, what happened. So,
a lot of gossip in the morning, though. And, man, I saw some secrets that were supposed to stay under wraps that I got to see a little early. So the morning, they're starting to kind of unveil some. So there's great ways. But 11 o'clock, look for both of us just on other ends of this. We used to get out around the same time, but it's been a busy year. It's been a busy year, Ron.
Grandma always used warm brandy with honey for the sour throat. I did do the honey, not the brandy, though. I did try the honey. John, if Ewalt won, he got 28.
Yeah. And then it was David Anderson. He got 26 because there is the bonus point for winning. But no, even if there's only one tractor, if only one tractor shows up and he goes 5 feet or 500 feet, he walks away with first place points. No, you just go right down it, and it is independent. It goes all the way down, and I tried to figure this out one time. Now there is eventually a cutoff, isn't there, Ron? Because it's not like once you say hit 15th, it's not like 15th gets 10 and 16th get 10, and like once we're out of points, then nobody below that gets points. But I don't.
No, Mike. I think everybody at a certain point stops at 10, and everybody just gets 10 below that.
Okay, so everybody does get 10. So you basically get tech points. You get points for for bumping the sled. Okay.
Basically, you get 10 points for being there. Is what it is.
Okay.
Yeah. 10 bonus points for being there, regardless of how you did. But you got you get 10 points. Let's say when there's a rain out, when everybody's there, those pullers get 10 points because they were there.
Yeah. Okay. Yep.
Mod 4-wheel drive. Let's look at points here. Murray Thornton, pretty close there with his brother Lane. They're only 3 points apart. Then Ryan Thornton's backdraft. Stroker Ace dropped a number here since before the weekend. Going the wrong way. They're only a point behind backdraft, but the Thornton family kind of ruling the 4-wheel drive class there.
I would like to see if they're going to park one in the winner's circle, why not go ahead and park the Ramrod in the winner's circle? Then you could say you did it with 3 different trucks over 3 different years. So, we had Thumper 2 years ago. We had Backdraft last year. Let's let Ramrod get up there.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to see any sandbagging by Murray.
They're not going to.
There to allow that to happen.
So, but don't sleep on those Ritter boys. But they, the Ritters haven't. I don't know that they found their way to the winner's circle in a couple of weekends, so they're kind of due as well.
Let's see. Let me go back here, and we'll go to light modifieds there. Only one hook left for these guys on September the 1st at South Dakota State Fair. So, running rowdy. They're splitting up the Ott brothers. Double overtime, starting to make some good passes. Still having some issues. That thing hooking and unhooking and throwing the front end up and dropping it back down there. But, the frequent flyer, Blake Ott, back in championship form, 12 points ahead of his brother and 8 points ahead of Wes Sievers there. And
it's funny because we were talking early in the season, the first half of the season, Blake Ott's kind of struggling. He's not true to form. Here lately, he's been on a different level. Other than I say that, Ron, it's worth talking about Gage Ott's run. Let's talk about that really quickly. Saturday night, 420 feet. He has laid out the 2 longest pulls I have ever seen in my life. Is there just something about that blue one, that blue Allison, that when it's right, what do you think of that? 420 feet as an old school puller. Let's go back to Ron Stone, 1988, and I want to time travel, and I want to tell you, hey, one of these days you're going to announce a pull where a guy goes 420 feet. What would you have thought about that?
Would have never thought that, because back then it was, the days of the pull-off. You went past 300, it was a full pull, and, anybody else that went past 300, you had a pull-off. The top, tractors that went past that was just 300 foot was a full pull. So, eventually.
Never even dawned on you to think that you would see a distance like that.
And eventually, that term itself, new people to pulling are going to be like, pull, what's that?
Yeah. Yep.
Well, back in the day, we used to run 300 foot.
That's I never thought about that, Ron. At what point? That's a great thing you just said right there. At what point in the new generation of pulling will someone like you or me throw out the term full pull, and we have fans that say, "What are you talking about?" That's it. How long will that phrase live on and have any relevant meaning to the fans in the stands? Because we're pushing on 20 years since. Well, I don't know. We had it at Ravenna. We had a pull off this year, so every once in a while it sneaks in.
Kyle Pedley checking in from Ocheaton. Great weekend. You guys did an awesome job. Thanks, Kyle. You did an awesome job there Saturday night. Awesome pass as usual. Look at that. My mom checking in from down by the lake. I think it's the first time she's ever watched. Thanks for watching, Mom.
There you go.
Not sure what this is. Crush. Saw a shirt that you made. I was like, okay. All right. Not sure what that means.
That feels Spamish. That felt a little Spamish. I'm not sure that wasn't AI generated.
Robert Miner. If a sled breaks in the middle of a class, what happens next?
Well, were you in Rock Valley this year?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's
now that wasn't was that a sled breakage or was that rain?
Yeah. No. Remember we switched from the orange sled
that's right.
to the green sled because the cock shut. We were on hook number 2. It was early in the class, but we were on hook number 2 in the light super stock ag, and the orange one malfunctioned. And what they did in that night was they brought the backup sled in immediately, and they were early in the class, and they just started the class over. They jumped in number 3. Number 3 was test hook, and then they just started it over.
Yeah, it just depends. It's a good question. I'm not sure if there's a rule that says a certain percentage of the class is over. It's in the books. I think generally what we would do is restart the class in that situation. Yeah.
That would be a head tech official question, a rulebook question. That would be kind of an as development. First of all, you're going to do anything you can to get that original sled back, working under its own. And it's only after you realize that is not going to happen that you bring your backup on, and you adapt from there.
Yeah, Marty Samuel said it happened in Ravenna.
They stopped going back to the pull off.
Last year, I think, or year before, maybe even it happened. Yeah. Craig Schlottman, always nice to work with you guys, even through the heat and humidity. Yeah, the heat, that was a factor over the weekend. You guys kept it lively with the adjectives. It kept the crowd entertained all weekend. Great job. Keep it up. Thanks, Craig. Appreciate it. Tammy Roberts watching from Bucyrus, Ohio. Thanks for watching. And there you go. You asked for the head tech. There you go. We will start.
The head tech chimes in. Start the class over.
There you go, Marty. Is that there's the answer.
We were surmising. Keep in mind, we speak what we are told. So
happened at Whitewright and Rock Valley. Whitewright, it was broke down about an hour. Ended up starting class over. Then Rock Valley started class over. Back up. Sled. Right. I was more interested about the part where he said middle of the class. So I didn't think there was a rule out there that said a percentage of the class being over, it's done. But you heard right there.
But it brings up, because each of these scenarios, it has been fortunate enough to happen early in a class. Let's take something crazy. You get one of those super modified 2-wheel drive truck classes, 30 in the class. Let's say you get to truck number 24 and you have a breakage and it's 12:30 in the morning. I mean, do you start it over? I think that's kind of what you were thinking, Ron. It would be,
Yeah.
But I don't know. We'd have to see. But
hey, our crews are fast enough. We can just start the class over. It'd be good
and that's what we would do. And keep in mind, as polling officials, we're going to do whatever it takes to put on the best show. And if they say start it over, we'll start it over. And
then playing devil's advocate, the argument would be, well, let's say you ran half the class. Let's say 2 guys that already ran one broke a turbo, one split a block, one broke a bearing.
Something like that happened in Rock Valley this year, because it was either, I don't think it was one of them. I want to say the test puller couldn't come back and had something unfortunate. Like Mammon pulled it out to infinity because the sled broke. And I don't remember if it was Mammon or someone else, maybe it was someone kind of benefited on the other side. one of our pullers went out of bounds. And then they started the class over. So that guy kind of gets a get out of jail free card, So there's a lot of little things.
Well, you can do that if your first hook on your option. You can go out of bounds, drop it, and come back. So
let's say that hook number 5 goes out of bounds, though, and then they restart the class at hook number 10. Someone's the fortunate winner right there.
Yeah. Let's look at some more points here.
I like that. Let's move to. We're going to get ourselves in a.
We're opening up a bag.
Let's go back to what we do know.
Yeah.
Let's go to the points.
A whole can of worms here being opened up. Let's go to points here. Modified, naturally aspirated 2-wheel drive. 2 hooks left for these guys at 12 points. Luke Renner, separate him in the dirt. They could potentially tighten that up if the dirt has a really good hook this weekend, and then they finish at the South Dakota State Fair on the 1st of September. David Jeems driving the Pit Bull this year, the Chevrolet-powered machine. Only a couple points out of the number 2 spot. He's 14 points back out of the lead. Here's a surprising one here, 3200 Super Field. Like father, like son. Look at this, Mike. Wow, 34 points back is the defending points champ, Gary Kavanaugh.
And this is final. They're done for the season. This is your points champion. They wrapped up in Palmer. Now, a couple of things happened here. Gary Kavanaugh did not pull at the final 2 hooks. He did not participate in West Point or at Palmer. Had some health issues, and that kind of left the door open. Peterson had it won by the numbers game on Friday in West Point, and then he went out and then he won again in Palmer on Saturday, kind of pushing it way out. So the numbers that could have been closer. I think we still would have ended up with something kind of like this, but with Kavanaugh, and our prayers go out to him. Hope he's feeling better. But with him running into some health issues, that did kind of leave that open. But take nothing away from David Peterson. He said he didn't want to win that way, but he also had 5 wins on the season. So great year for David Peterson.
So congratulations to him. But semis, the blue collar parts truck there leading. Did not expect to see this. Did not expect to see defending points champ down there in 4th either. So
no, that's another one. If we could time travel and go back to Donaldson, and we looked at that blue collar truck, which really is kind of their test and tune, kind of their backup truck, and it really struggled that very first night to get off the line, and we kind of thought, that's just going to be one that they're going to learn as the season goes on. But it survived the war. That's been an absolute war of breakage this year. And that's been Mr. Reliable, the blue collar truck has.
Yeah, Roberts has had a lot of problems. His truck broken a lot of parts this year. Engine, rear end down in Whitewright. Been a rough year for him, trying to get that thing back in championship form. Let's go pro stock 4x4. One of the most convincing points totals here. 50 points between 1st and 2nd place. Wow. Keith Hammonds. He's on his A game week in and week out. I mean,
no, I'm going to say this, and I mean this lighthearted, and I hope all my pullers, can chuckle a little bit here. My wife actually called me on Saturday after the pull in Wisner, and she said, you obviously, she said, you made a mistake announcing. She goes, you misannounced that. I go, well, what do you mean? And she said, well, you didn't announce that Keith Hammonds won the Pro Stock 4-wheel drive truck class. She goes, I thought he basically, when I said, said, nope, Keith is human. He got beat. So, but no, what a season he has had,
Yeah, let's go back up here and check the comments just to stay current here. Mark J. Ham was there this weekend taking some pictures. And
another one works his tail off and does great work.
Winter Circle photos as well. Cole Lundahl. Props to the Wisner crew for keeping all the water coolers filled for all those people with heat. More pools should do this, in my opinion. They don't just put that out there for the workers. That's for anybody in the crowd that needs the water. It seems like year in and year out, that's been a hot, heat has been an issue there. So their sponsors and those folks at Wisner that run that pool, the Wisner board, put those free waters out there every year now. They set them at about the 200-foot marker on either side for the crowd, and anybody that wants a water can grab it there. They don't want anybody falling over from heat stroke or heat exhaustion. Ryan Boyson, he's talking about Yeah, talking about restarting a class. First vehicle will last. So, if 5 went down the track, they'll start back over, and we're pulling the same order at the end of the lineup there. Is what he's talking about there.
Yep.
And
they're still talking about Rock Valley and that sled reset and the breakage and everything. So the next couple comments are kind of just clarifying on what happened there.
And Cole Lundahl with the good memory here, Mike. Remember what happened. So we'll go back to points here. Light super stock, Green Lightning, Frank Boy leading that. Good to see last one standing, getting that thing figured out. That one is, what is that? 22 points separating first and second. That class hooks. I know it hooks at Unionville and Buckner. And then I think it pulls in Huron as well, Mike. So
the one in this, when I look at it, and I just have to go back and relook at the season. But to me, in my mind, I cannot picture a lot of pulls that Ryan Frericks has missed. Obviously, he has missed a good smattering of them out there.
Oh, here we go. Here we go.
I know. Hey, I was reading. So today was the first day I highlighted it in my book, and I meant to send it to you. So for folks out there, today was my first day back teaching school. And wouldn't you know it, page number 2 of one of the books we were reading had smattering in it. So I said, okay, there's where it came to me. It's subliminally stuck in there. But Ryan Frericks, he is the pulls I've seen him at.
Yeah.
He's got a couple wins. He's right up in there. He ran great again this weekend at Wisner. And I kind of thought to myself, I go, man, I bet he's getting up there close. He might have a shot. And now I see he's 125 points back. Obviously, there's several he didn't hit. And it just, my memory doesn't tell that story. It's weird how that narrative will develop in your own head. I have to go back and look. But, it feels like he's been there. But Frank Boy evidently has. Gary Whipp's another one I would have guessed was up higher than that. Alan Ulmer.
He was leading it at one point. He was leading. The last time we did this on this show, he was leading.
Ulmer a little bit feels like he was the big dog on top early on and had the bugs sorted out. Now the bugs are back, and he's kind of grappling to get back where he was, So he's kind of been backpedaling here a little bit. But that's light supers for you. They are not just easy to keep them humming and moving the way you want them.
4 more hooks for that class on the year. 2 of those hooks are not only points, but also Holganix Midwest Summer Sweep points. They will pull this Saturday in Madison. They'll pull next Monday, a week from Monday at the South Dakota State Fair. And then the following weekend, they hook Friday, Saturday in Unionville, Missouri, and Buckner.
Here, Cole's got a good point. Check this out really quick. This is worth talking about. Austin Ritter might have to build a light super stock after the weekend he had with the whole shot. That was fun to listen to him. Your interview with him, that was a fun one. That's one I go back and listen to again, where he was describing the difference of the ride on the light super compared to the pro stock.
Yeah, I told him he was going to have to do a little soul searching here with.
He's going to have an identity crisis.
Green guy, and 2 wins right in a row, first time on the tractor. That was pretty cool.
That was neat. Yeah, that was neat. You could hear the excitement in his voice talking about how different of a run that was compared to his pro stock.
Limited Pro diesel pickups. There's your points. Defending points champ leading there, 4 points over Megatron. Chain Smoker doing really well in the second half of the season. Emily Schaefer normally pulls primarily down in Texas. Coming up and making a lot of hooks with us this year, as well as Jeremy Bales and all hopped up. How about the new Optimus Prime truck? I think he's going to get that all, get some vinyl on there and some Optimus Prime colors. But pretty cool to see the Optimus Prime and they're pulling with Megatron.
I love that. I think that's great for that class. That's a neat class. That's the class of the future. The kids love that class. You get a little rivalry going like that. The other thing I want to say, here's a question I'll have for you. Objectively, did Skylar Leeper actually have the best weekend of any puller in Wisner, Nebraska, or maybe even nationwide this weekend? There were a couple other big pulls. I don't know if you've heard of them. some other pull happened somewhere else this weekend. I've vaguely heard of it. I don't really know.
Yeah,
but, 3 wins. Skylar Leaper goes perfect Thursday, Friday, Saturday at the biggest pull we've been to in quite some time. Is that the biggest week he could have had? I think he's got to be one of the top dogs after the season, after this weekend, just
of course that Friday session, Mike, was not a points hook for him. Right. That was added late, thanks to Preston Collins and Gulf States Energy Services down there sponsoring that 100% on Friday, and gave those limited pro diesel guys 3 hooks there. But yeah, he swept the weekend entirely, all 3 hooks. That's not easy to do. That's not
no.
So he was on his A game there. Alan Ulmer, he said, we're on it, going after it, going to go after it with 4 hooks to go. Alan, I kind of asked the same question. I did not think that Mark would miss Wisner, Nebraska, but you never know. It might have had some broken tractors and things like that. I didn't get the backstory on that.
He hung out with me. He was running the pits in Mobile. He actually came up to the announcer's booth and announced a class with me at Mobile. Mark does his own thing. Sometimes Mark chases points and he dominates some points, and sometimes he chases wins, and sometimes he hangs out with Gary and helps him sling weights and shows up in the announcer's booth with Mike. So Mark, Mark does his thing. So hopefully we see him back soon.
Zuck Fukerberg, Wideless steer had a good. Yes, he did.
Yeah, that dude. If it's a big stage, Kyle Pedley just throws down. I've just reached that conclusion. The big stages, he just turns the wick up and hammers. So how did you phrase it, Ron? Watch the balance on this tractor. He's going to hang this thing 18 inches and just out the back door. And then whoop, that's exactly what he did,
Alan says, we're talking about Mark. Hopefully he'll have the diesel ready for the next 2 hooks. I'm assuming he's talking about the diesel tractor to run in the light super class.
Yep. The lost weapon. Awesome. The combination, the joint venture. It's the chassis from the Lost and the motor from the weapon, or something like that. It's something. I think that's right.
Let's look at 2-wheel drive here. Donald Nelson, and I know it says Donald Nelson. I know that
Dustin
Corliss has driven one of those trucks as much as Donald has this year, if not more. Country Heat, Trevor Fitzsimmons in 3rd. Cameron Pascal and High Cotton 4th. Buffalo's Chips having a rough ride this year.
Not true to form. Very inconsistent year for him. And then, it says also same thing. It says Trevor Fitzsimmons for Country Heat, but I think Tim has been doing most of the driving. Now, he picked up a win. Did he get the win on Tuesday at the Iowa State Fair? Does Country Heat have a win to its credit yet? I want to say
I'm pretty sure that he does, Mike.
So, and here's the reason I ask. I talked to Tim, and Tim said, I have one goal and one goal only for this truck. And he says, we want to put this thing in Louisville this year. We want to pull at the National Farm Machinery Show. So I've kind of been thinking about if I was examining his resume and I thought, okay, 3rd in the Outlaws. The Outlaws are kind of the predominant association with 2-wheel drive trucks. But I said, he doesn't have a win yet. Well, now he's got a win and he's sitting 3rd in the Outlaws. He's going to be close. I would put him kind of right on the bubble. If he can jump up to maybe that number 2 spot and grab a couple more wins, I think he's going to have a strong case for Louisville. But I would say right now, he's kind of right on that bubble of his goal.
Yeah, they've got 4 more hooks left, Mike. Unionville, Buckner, and then down in Texas, 2 hooks down at Lufkin, Texas. Yep. So a lot could happen between.
And he won at Buckner last year, so that's a track he has had success on. But, kind of a story within a story. That's what they want to make happen this year is get that Heat modified back to Louisville. And I kind of thought, 3rd in the Outlaws, 1 win, right on the bubble. So, if he grabs a couple more, could be interesting,
Let's go to mod tractors, 7,400-pound mod tractors. There you go so far. Cotton Candy creeping up there on Case and Pitch and Thermal Thunder. The Bullbuster in 3rd, Donald Nelson. Dustin Corliss, Twisted Whip 4th. Vern Huser, another, had a rough week last week, lost some points, not unable to make the call to Iowa State Fair and Wisner. Pretty tough to lose out on 3 hooks there. That's going to set him back quite a ways.
Yeah.
I did hear some news in the modified tractor world there over the weekend that the American Thunder tractor, Bill Voorhees' tractor, going to be coming to Nebraska, was purchased minus the third engine. So 2 engines on the tractor. Legendary Bill Voorhees been around for a long time pulling the American Thunder tractor. It's coming to Nebraska. So it'll be, I'm sure we're going to see it at some Outlaw hooks. I'm not sure about this year, maybe next year. And he pulls a lot also with our region, NSPA Heartland region as well. So that tractor should do really well with us with 2 engines.
Yeah, that's a fun story. That was one that was circulating. There were a lot of little stories and secrets and debuts and things in Wisner this weekend. So that was a big one. That was a fun
one. Like in this class here, the
exactly, yeah. No, that was big news for sure.
That was they were very tight-lipped about.
They were, and they saw Kinsey and I coming around, and you could kind of tell that we're friends with Corey. We get along with Corey, but it was almost like, oh, that's the media. Do we release this yet? And we kind of assured them like, hey, we're just chit-chatting. We don't want to take away from it. It's going to be better to debut it on the track anyway. We're not going to snap a picture and post it on Facebook. And then they were very forthcoming with everything. But it was important to them that they do debut it on the track. And yeah, they kept that secret nicely. But the Barn Buddy is now a pro stock. Well, the Barn Buddy is kind of gone. The Barn Buddy has got some internals and Barn Burner. And a new to them pro stock is now the Barn Buddy HD. So the Schluters have gone pro stock pulling.
And speaking of pro stock here, there's your top 5 in points right now after the Iowa State Fair and Wisner. These are up to date, including drops. And Lacey Wake, now he's been driving Caden's tractor here the last several events, but doing a good job here. I mean, he's 1 and 2 as a rookie. Not too shabby. There's your points, defending points champ down there in 3rd. Greg Jager, always dangerous in that Wampus Cat. And Kyle Pedley, 113 back, but he doesn't make all the events. And if he did, that'd sure make things interesting now, wouldn't it, Mike?
Yeah, Kyle Pedley'd be a tough one to beat. But, it makes me wonder, sometimes those X-Factor pullers, they kind of like to pick specific tracks that their tractors prefer, with their setup and everything, your Wisners and your Rock Valleys. So maybe that's kind of the style that he likes to pull, and when you pull less, and this is nothing against Kyle, this is kind of just common knowledge. If you pull less, you can turn the wick up a little bit harder, a little more often. But I do think if Kyle ran the full season for points, that, we would see some shake up there at the top for sure. Ron, I want to pass a question to you. You like to kind of surmise and chew on things and anticipate where the world is going. Lacey Wager and I were talking Friday morning, and he looked me dead in the eye and he goes, Mike, do you think we'll ever see the 5.0 pro stock class in Louisville? He's feeling good. He's had a good season. He's like everybody. He'd love to be pulling in Louisville. Ron, you've been around this sport longer than I have. 5.0 pro stocks ever going down the dirt in Freedom Hall? What's your gut reaction to that?
I think with that class gaining in popularity nationwide, I think eventually, yes. I don't think they can ignore it forever.
That's a good answer.
It's a very popular class. It's gaining in popularity simply because of the limitation. It's a good durable turbo. The tractors, they don't tear them up as much as an all-out, pro does, so that they stay together for the most part.
Yeah.
And that's why it's becoming more and more popular with things becoming more expensive. And, and you burn people out when they're fixing them every single week after every single hook, pulling engines out of them and such. So 5-inch pro, the Weimer 5-inch pro, I think eventually they won't be able to ignore it eventually, and they'll have to put it in there.
I like that answer. I like the way you phrase that. Yeah, just if the pullers keep doing what they're doing, the fans keep doing what they're doing, the squeaky wheel gets the oil, knock on the door, and eventually someone's going to come and say, who is it? So, yeah, you can't ignore them forever. I think this is an unpopular opinion. I think that's where we're going to see the pro stock class, period, end up 30 years from now. I think that will be the pro stocks. I get a lot of side eyes when I say that. People say you never want to go backwards or whatever. They say you want to push it forwards as much as possible with horsepower and everything. But And, you know, I think I've talked to some people. I've talked to some knowledgeable people. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. But there you go. Lacey Ronstone thinks, yeah, there will be a day where your class will be at
limitations on every class. Even classes that are unlimited have limitations.
Yeah.
You know, top fuel dragsters, you know, in NHL, those aren't unlimited. Those have a lot of limitations. I mean, you know, the slicks on them, if they're an eighth of an inch too wide, they're illegal. You know, I mean, imagine how fast they'd be going if they were allowed to be unlimited. But you would see a reduction in the number of teams because it would become ungodly expensive. And I think that's why you have to put limitations on things. It'd be fun to have a class that's just totally unlimited. But eventually you'd run out of competitors because it would just be so expensive.
You'd have same 4 people, you know, and then blowing them up and rebuilding them every week, you know, and that doesn't make a good show. At the end of the day, you know, at the end of the day, we're in show business a little bit here. You know, we got to put on a show. So,
well, yeah, that's true. And when you're selling a class to promoters, you know, and a lot of our pullers hook more than 20 times a year. You know, you need classes that can go weekend to weekend and, you know, make those hooks. And, you know, sometimes you get in a situation where so many in a class that, you know, may only bring 8 or 10 show up with 3 or 4 because half the class broke the weekend before and couldn't get them fixed. So
I'm a promoter and I want to have a pull October 2nd and I want diesel super stocks there. And you're going to say, let's maybe chat about some other options here. And I think that's any association. That's just kind of, those guys are hard on them. So, you know,
after, that long.
Ask for the diesel supers in June.
Limited pro stock, Justin Deck, still 2 young guns there in first and second. Justin Deck having a great season, as well as Jamie Yonke. Their high stakes horsepower creeping up there. One Mean Farmer creeping up there. And of course, the Novaks going the opposite direction. They've got 2 broke tractors. So not sure. I can't remember who was in 6th. Maybe Moriando might see him creep up there pretty soon up in the top 5 there with and there's some rumors there about the Novaks talking about building a pro stock, 5-inch pro stock.
Well, there's a lot of there was a lot of gossip at Wisner this weekend, and depending on your sources, but I heard a lot of rumors about this, that, and the other. Not my story to tell, you know. So go out in the pits, ask some questions, talk to pullers yourself. But yeah, there's stories out there, folks. But sometimes those are for the pullers themselves to disseminate.
Let's look at diesel super stock there. David Anderson leading.
No, I think they're done. I think they're finished, aren't they? I think this season is over for them, isn't it?
Yeah, for diesel supers, that's right.
Which that one snuck past me. I didn't realize this. I made an error as an announcer, and I should have announced David Anderson as your season winner up at the Iowa State Fair. I just figured for sure that they were pulling up in Spencer or somewhere, but it was brought to my attention later on that no, I think their season has reached its conclusion. So David Anderson, he's your points champion. Am I correct, Ron? I don't think they have another hoop, do they?
Yep. He would be the champion there. There's your top 5. Not official, but that is final. I don't think anything will change. Let's go to region. These regions are done as well, Mike. Regional.
Okay.
Limited pro. Kyle Stepanek won that region there with Toxic. You see Hargens and Wildside, Gosler Spare Time. Jerry Hannigan's Forever Red and Keith Keeshaw's Die Hard Deer there, the top 5. That one in the books. So those guys will be getting a check as they walk across the stage at the banquet in November. Regional limited pro stock. George Byer winning with the side piece. Dave Novak finishing second there. You see Gary Barrett third, Seth Novak fourth, of course, and one Mean Farmer in fifth. Novak's getting in those important hooks before the breakage occurred in those regions there. There's one I left out. I must not have grabbed Light Limited Pro. Here, let me grab that real quick. I know I've got it, Mike, as far as the national in Light Limited Pro. Where is it here? Well, I thought I had it. Where the heck is it? There it is. There it is. There it is. And we'll get out of the regional. There we go. It's Light Limited Pro. Gosler leading that with spare time. 10 points back. Mason Brink, Inches Matter. Randall Gira, 1 point back from second. Underrated 2. And Mike Hargan's the wild side. Kenny Beeson's fair enough. So that's all the points there. I think we've covered all of them, Mike, here to bring everybody up to date on points. Let's see. Let's check these. Awesome. Best kept secret this year. I'm sure he's referring to the barn buddy there.
Yep.
Chris Kilbarger, little barnstorming is always fine.
Talking about Kyle Pedley going out there and just hitting him where he wants it, and that's a good. I like that. That we need to come up with a tractor called the Barnstormer. That'd be a good name for a tractor.
Doug Vos says he'd like to see the 7400 mod class and 50 Pro stock at Louisville. Amen. Case Conover, did Gone pull in Wisner?
Yeah, didn't he? I thought he did. Did he not?
I'm looking at notes and all kinds of stuff here. Let's see.
Well, that's one of those. I was sure he did, but now that you mention it,
I don't think he made it on Saturday night. Did he?
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of what I'm thinking. I feel like yes, he did not on Saturday. He did not pull on. I know he did not pull on Saturday because Lori looked up and she said, "Gone's gone," and I said, "Okay, Gone's a scratch. Gone's gone." So, yeah, he did not pull on Saturday.
Yeah, let's look here.
Yeah, and then Zook, here we go. Was answering the question right there. Friday, but
Gone, he did pull on Friday night. Finished 11th. Finished 11th with a hook of 340.6. The wide blue steered went 387 and change that night on Friday night. But yeah, he was there Friday. Not sure what they broke, but they did not make it on Saturday.
Yep. So Doug had the story for us. Said Friday, but was broke on Saturday.
Benepullers competed well this year.
Yep.
So yes, they did, Marty. Yes, they did. Mm-hmm. So, Mike, we have gone long here, just bringing everybody up to date. By the way, the Iowa State Fair, awesome 2 days. Wisner, Thunder by the River, awesome 3 days of pulling there. Now things slow down. We got one hook this weekend, one hook next weekend. Then we've got Unionville, Buckner that following weekend. And then the following weekend after that, we have
Bedford, Spencer.
And Spencer. And then we have a little bit of time off before we head south to Lufkin, Texas. Which will be a huge event again this year. That one just grows more and more every single year. Dale Bartels, of course, will be up in the historic Prairie Village, Madison, South Dakota this weekend. So they're working on the track. Cool and all. I agree with 507. Yep. I'm going to add the light limited pro stocks.
I had this thought. I was thinking about this the other day. We need to do something like the Western Farm Show again. There's Louisville, and then they were talking about back in the day, ATPA had something in Indiana, Saint something or another in Indiana. That would be neat. Now, Ron, you're kind of sitting there saying, I've been there, I've done that. That's a lot of work, but an outlaw indoor pull. I never got to experience some of those, but I think that would be fun to check out.
Don't count it out. The American Royal is moving to the Kansas side. They're building a whole new one, so you never know.
Mm-hmm.
Could see something like that happen, Mike. So
that would put a smile on my face.
Just saying. So Mike, why don't you go ahead and do When the Smoke Clears, my friend?
Sure.
What do you got for us this week? Shining in the spot.
We have laying in the wings right over here. He should still be loaded from a week ago. Chuck Cleveland is going to be your When the Smoke Clears puller. And pullers, if you're watching after this is the final one that I have loaded. So I've sent several questionnaires to several of you. A lot of you guys said we're getting them back. Go ahead and send those to me. Reach out to me. We'd love to get more going. So, yeah, let's highlight Chuck Cleveland really quick. All right, bringing Chuck's bio up here. I had it just a second ago. Here we go, right over here. So your puller this week, it's Chuck Cleveland. He calls his Pro Stock 4-wheel drive cutting into the profits, and he was back at Wisner this week. He had done some damage to it, and he said he was happy and excited to be back. I went and talked to him Friday or Saturday morning, so he was feeling good about it. Said has made his first ever pull in September of 1981, but he's been pulling competitively since 2011. So when asked him how long have you been pulling, or when his first hook was, that's how long he's been going. So since 1981, but been chasing points since 2011. When asked what his most memorable hook was, he said that was finally getting to pull at the Iowa State Fair. Saw the Iowa State Fair for the first time this year. I understand that's a big deal. That's a neat event for pullers, so you can see why that would be a notable memory. We asked him what his wildest ride was. He said nothing too wild, but he goes, I've had many bouncy and hopping passes in the early days. Of course, that dreaded bounce is the nemesis of all things four-wheel drive truck pulling. Says points championships. He says, I've got 2 points championships with the Midwest Pullers Association in Pro Stock 4x4 and 1 in Super Street with my previous truck. Midwest Pullers Association. Not familiar with them. Midwest Pullers. Any idea where they're based out of?
Not sure.
Not one I've heard of before. So we'll have to do a little follow-up on that. That's kind of neat. Biggest pulling hero. He says Rod Cameron from Indianola. He pulled with Tri-State Pullers in the 70s and 80s. I grew up going and helping him when I could. So maybe not one of those names that you hear about all the time, but everybody's got that local guy that they love rooting for. So super cool that he's got that source of inspiration out there. Day job. When asked him what he does, he says he's a farmer. And the best advice he could give, he says, don't quit your day job, and you have to hate money. So if you want to get into tractor pulling, he says, don't quit your day job, and it's a good sport if you hate your money. You know how to become a millionaire in truck and tractor pulling, Ron?
How's that, Mike?
You start off a billionaire. I heard somebody say that one time. So.
But, yeah, I think Chuck may have, when you in your conversation with him over the weekend, did he go back to his old motor? I heard he hurt his RCE motor at some point. Doesn't seem like it has the same oomph that it had before.
He let me scroll down. He sent me a message, and he said we are working on putting the motor back in the truck tonight so we can go to Wisner. He sent me that last week, so. Interpret that how you will. I didn't get the impression that it was a backup motor, but he didn't come right out and say either. So I don't have the official scoop on that, to be honest with you.
I was speculating. That's one of my things. I speculate a lot if I don't get the scoop there. So it just seemed like it was kind of down on power. Maybe it was an old motor.
Very well could have been, and I'll be honest, I don't remember that I have the details on that. He says his goals as a puller, he says, I want to finish top 5 in the season in points with the Outlaws. And his message to the fans, he says, come see us in the pits. We love to talk about and show our pullers to the fans, especially the young ones. Bring a friend to a pull that's never been to one. I like both those. Bring the kiddos out, let them sit in the truck, and then bring someone who's never been to a pull. Come and talk to us and bring someone who hasn't been. I heard a lot of stories this weekend about, brought a client to a pull or brought a potential sponsor to a pull, and they were blown away. That it's not what you think it is. You talk to the casual person, and they think that it's Johnny Poppers at the county fair that are going to go and throw round bales afterwards. It's not that. So yeah, bring a pal to the pull. They're going to have a good time. Chuck Cleveland, when the smoke clears, you'll be looking at an outlaw. And he's the outlaw you're going to see this week.
Awesome. We ran long. Sorry about that, folks. Looks like most people are still watching. We got all the comments in. Remember, download the Outlaw Pulling app. Also, make sure you go to outlawpulling.com. Get entered to win that Farmall 25 SC tractor. That's going to be right on top of us here before too long. We're going to be giving that thing away this fall. So make sure you get entered in that. Also, the events coming up this weekend, Madison, South Dakota. Next weekend, the South Dakota State Fair in Unionville, Buckner in Missouri, then Bedford, Iowa, Spencer, Iowa, Lufkin, Texas, and 2025 is in the books. Just like that. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Mike, thanks for doing what you do. And thank you to all the fans out there in Outlaw Nation. We'll see you this Saturday, 6 p.m. in Madison, South Dakota.